In such a short amount of time, Sasha Gilmore was unable to grasp the magnitude of the changes that had taken place in her life. It had only been a year since she had reached the pinnacle of her modeling career, but everything had fallen apart in such a short amount of time. In light of the difficulties she had been experiencing with her mental health and the untimely death of her kid, she was now making an effort to put herself back together emotionally. The assistance that she had obtained from her family and friends, particularly from her newly discovered confidant Alexis Davis, had been a vital source of comfort for her. Over the course of this day, Sasha was supposed to meet Alexis at Kelly's for a cup of coffee. Sasha, who was gradually regaining her self-assurance in a society that had before seemed uncaring and judgmental, had found that the casual hangout location, with its reassuring familiarity, had become something of a shelter for her. Despite the fact that Alexis had taken her under her wing and provided her with both advice and empathy, Sasha continued to feel anxious. She was certain that the chat that awaited her today would be different. She made a commitment to herself that she would be honest, talk about the challenges she had faced recently, and try to gain some perspective. On the other hand, she experienced a knot of tightness in her gut even as she entered the room. Sasha's reaction caused Alexis' pleasant smile to falter somewhat as she looked up from the table she was sitting at near the window. Alexis was waiting at a table near the window. "What's up, Sasha? Are you feeling okay?" Concern could be seen in Alexis' eyes as she inquired. The smile that Sasha offered was not particularly strong, but she did nod. "Just a lot on my mind, Alexis." After settling up at the little table, they placed their order for coffee. Alexis observed that Sasha was engaging in the behavior of picking at the napkin that was in front of her. Leaning closer, she placed a reassuring touch on Sasha's arm and leaned forward again. "I don't care what it is. You may tell me about it," Alexis remarked. "The feeling that you are walking a tightrope and that you are always frightened of falling is something that I have experienced. Sasha, however, you are more powerful than you appear to be." A glimmer of appreciation appeared in Sasha's eyes as she raised her head and glanced upward. "I am not a fool. At the very least, I make an effort to be. But there are moments when it's difficult for me to hold my composure. Even now, I can't help but think about him constantly." Her voice was trembling as the distressing recollections came to the surface. There was a reassuring nod from Alexis to her. "It is seldom a straight line that healing occurs. You are going to have good days and bad days, and that is perfectly normal. As for me, I am here for you." When Sasha finally managed to let out a trembling breath, she felt a wave of relief rush over her. "It is my pleasure, Alexis. The only thing I need to do is figure out how to forgive myself because of what took place, despite the fact that it was not my fault." As they continued their chat, Sasha noticed that she was becoming more relaxed, despite the fact that her words got more disorganized. Her thoughts were rushing as she began to speak, and her nervous energy began to come out in her sentences. "I just want you to know that I have the impression that people are constantly observing me. It seems as though they are waiting for me to make a mistake, because it would demonstrate that they were correct in their assessment of me," Sasha remarked, her eyes darting around the cafe as if she were looking for people who were not visible to her. Alexis responded to Sasha with a voice that was gentle yet grounded. "After everything you've been through, something like that is normal," she said. "However, you are free to rebuild yourself at your own pace," the speaker said. "You are not obligated to strive for perfection." Sasha gave a slight nod while absent-mindedly stirring her coffee. "Yes, but the way that people look at me at times is almost like as if they are aware of what I am doing." She seemed to realize that she had said too much, as she abruptly stopped speaking. One of Alex's eyebrows was lifted. Sasha, do they know what they are doing? Sasha blinked, taken aback by the unexpected. Without a doubt, nothing. Simply put, I suppose they are aware that I am having a hard time. Nevertheless, Alexis had picked up on something peculiar in Sasha's tone, something that was more profound and unspoken. She was aware of the activation of her impulses to protect. Sasha, are you trying to conceal something that is giving you a problem? Whatever it is that you haven't shared with anyone else. Shyly, Sasha averted her gaze, her face turning red. No, it's nothing, she said. Simply put, I'm exhausted. It's exhausting to have so many people believe that I have everything under control, or at the very least that I'm making an effort to do so. Alex's intuition gave her the impression that there was more to the narrative, despite the fact that Sasha attempted to brush it off. The words that Sasha had spoken did not quite make sense, and Alexis was well versed in the subtleties that are associated with someone who is attempting to evade the truth. Her personal experiences with addiction, loss, and the arduous process of recovery had equipped her with the ability to identify when another person was experiencing more profound upheaval than they were claiming to be experiencing. Alexis spoke to Sasha in a soft voice and said, Look, Sasha, you don't have to tell me everything, but if you're in trouble or feeling pressured, I'd want to help. I won't pass judgment. When Sasha looked into her eyes, she saw a mixture of terror and thankfulness. She appeared to be on the edge of opening up, but then she halted, her lips making a tight pressing motion against one another. Sasha was given the opportunity to examine her own ideas, while Alexis waited patiently, her patience undiminished. Sasha finally uttered in a hushed whisper, It's just, there are things I can't control, her voice heavy with the pain that she failed to express. There are moments when it feels as though there is a weight that I am unable to free myself from, and I have no idea where it originates from. Alexis nodded, maintaining a steady look. And that's not a problem. There are times when the burden weighs not because of what we are doing or how we are doing it, but rather because of what we are carrying. Nevertheless, if you get the impression that you are concealing something that is causing you pain, it is not too late to let go of it. Sasha averted her gaze, clearly trying to breathe. She said, almost to herself, You wouldn't understand, as she began to speak. However, Alexis was able to hear her, and the words touched a chord within her, causing an alarm to ring in her head. As Alexis spoke, her tone became more authoritative. Sasha, you'd be surprised what I understand, she said. I have experienced what it is like to bear a secret that is so weighty that you are afraid it may crush you. No matter what it is, do not allow it to bring you down. Unshed tears filled Sasha's eyes as she looked at her. Alexis, the truth is that I have no idea who I am anymore. At times, I have the sensation that I am merely a ghost, as if I am hardly present. Alexis felt a stab of pain in her chest as a result of the sincerity of her remarks. As a result of Sasha's bare vulnerability, Alexis was aware that her buddy was experiencing more suffering than she was letting on. Following Sasha's departure, Alexis was unable to shake the impression that something was seriously malfunctioning. Alexis was able to deduce from Sasha's slip of the tongue, her evasive responses, and the haunted expression in her eyes that Sasha was dealing with something that was significantly more serious than the ordinary sadness or emotional tiredness that people experience. Alexis made the decision to get in touch with Nina in the hopes of obtaining additional information that might benefit her. She was aware that Nina had a profound affection for Sasha, and she was hoping that Nina could provide some light on any recent changes in Sasha's conduct. As soon as Nina took up the phone, she announced, "Nina, it's Alexis. Today, I had a meeting with Sasha, and I am concerned. I get the impression that she is concealing something, and she appears to be different and more distant." The tone of Nina's voice became more somber. "As for me, Alexis, I've also noticed it. Recently, she has been disconnected, and she has not been herself. Before, I was under the impression that it was just stress, but now I'm not so sure." With a nod, Alexis's thoughts were racing. "Nina, I believe that we ought to assist her more than we ever have before. A secure environment, a group, or a therapist who is able to genuinely connect with her could be helpful. It is possible that she will become even more reserved if she perceives that she is being cornered." In light of the fact that Sasha required their assistance, Nina concurred, and the two of them made a decision to be there for her. However, Alexis also had a tinge of terror. In the event that Sasha's slip was a suggestion of something more severe, then there was no time to waste. The people who live in Port Charles have been through their fair share of unexpected turns, but none of them have been more stunning than the sudden change in the cast. As soon as it was announced that Chad Duell, the actor who plays Michael Corinthos, would be temporarily stepping away from the role, fans were filled with excitement and anticipation. It wasn't long before General Hospital made the announcement that Robert Adamson, who is well known for his previous position on The Young and the Restless, would be taking up the job. Michael's character is one of the show's pillars, related to both the Corinthos and Quatermain families. Not to mention his present entanglements with Willow, Sonny, Carly, and his son Wiley. Although cast changes are a usual occurrence in the world of soap operas, Michael's character is one of the show's most important aspects. There was a lot of excitement and speculation about what might be in store for Michael's narrative with Robert Adamson's return to General Hospital. There was also a lot of curiosity about whether or not the temporary shift could hint to more significant discoveries and dramatic turns. The past few months have been a whirlwind for Michael's life. During the years that he had been going through personal challenges and heartache, his marriage to Willow Tate had once appeared to be a fairy tale, a safe haven. Nevertheless, the shadowy undercurrents of his family's criminal existence have left an indelible mark, drawing Michael into ethical conundrums and compelling him to rethink his allegiance to his father, Sonny Corinthos. Michael's life has become even more complicated as a result of developments, such as Willow's recent sickness and the strain that has arisen among the family as a result of Sonny's renewed engagement with Nina Reeves. His work at ELQ, the demands of his family, and his own growing frustrations have all taken their toll on him. He has been juggling all of these things. His outward serenity has been deteriorating as a result of the weight of competing loyalties and simmering resentments, and Michael has been teetering on the edge, both emotionally and mentally. Fans are anticipating a Michael that is possibly more sensitive, contemplative, and questioning than he has ever been known to be before Robert Adamson takes over as the new director. Is it possible that this temporary recast will provide viewers with a glimpse into the more sinister parts of Michael's mind? Willow gets a feeling that Michael is not the same, or that the struggles he is going through on the inside are putting them in danger of becoming estranged from one another. As a result of his recent decision to conceal the truth regarding Sonny's betrayal and Nina's involvement, she is now questioning the decisions that her husband has made. There is a tense silence that permeates the atmosphere one evening while Willow and Michael are sitting together at their home. After taking a few deep breaths, she musters the fortitude to confront the increasing distance that exists between each of them. Willow begins her conversation with Michael in gentle voice. I have the impression that you are carrying something heavy, something that you do not wish to share with me. Michael, who is being portrayed by Adamson at this very time, is hesitating, and his eyes show a trace of both frustrated and saddened expression. Willow, it's not that I don't want to share. Let me explain. I'm not sure whether you know what I'm talking about. There are certain things that are involved. Willow extends her hand and takes his hands in hers. I am aware that this has always been a challenging situation for your family, but Michael, we are a team. It is not necessary for you to go through whatever it is that you are going through by yourself. Michael heaves a sigh, his shoulders sagging ever so slightly. There are times when I am not even sure that I am aware of what is correct anymore. There are things that my father has done that have caused harm to other people. However, he is still my father. And I have a sense of responsibility, as if I am obligated to safeguard my family, regardless of the consequences. Understanding causes Willow's eyes to become more gentle. Michael, this is a choice that we all make. Holding on to anger and resentment, on the other hand, will only cause you harm in the long run. The chat makes an impression that lasts, despite the fact that Michael continues to be conflicted. Even as he struggles with his sense of duty and allegiance, the words of Willow continue to reverberate in his thoughts, compelling him to confront the inner agony that he is experiencing. During this time, Sonny is struggling to reconcile his love with Mina, with the rift that it has caused in his family. He is also dealing with his own personal troubles. The tension that Sonny observes in Michael's behavior prompts him to make the decision to address it in the hopes of bridging the distance that exists between them. Sonny pulls Michael away and says, "Michael, we need to talk at some point in your life." Michael turns to confront his father, his emotions seething just below the surface. His eyes are filled with a steely resolve as he does so. "What is it that you would like to discuss, Sonny? You have picked your own path. In spite of everything that Nina has done to this family, you decided to be with her. Are you really expecting me to just go along with that?" Despite the intense pressure, Sonny maintains his composure and takes a deep breath. "It was not my expectation that you would comprehend everything. However, I hope that you would accept my choices, even if you did not agree with them. There's more to family than merely reaching a consensus, Michael." There is a mixture of hurt and rage in Michael's voice, and it wavers. "Sonny, loyalty should be synonymous with family. And you failed to live up to that promise when you allowed Nina to return to our lives." It is becoming increasingly apparent that the gap between Michael and Sonny is widening as the conversation continues to intensify. Both of them are torn apart by the terrible truth of their broken relationship, as well as by feelings of devotion and love. In the course of Robert Adamson's continued portrayal of Michael, the viewer starts to observe the character struggling with the specters of his past. Michael is extremely burdened by his feelings of animosity toward his father, his uncertainties regarding the decisions he has made, and his concerns for his own family. When he is working late at ELQ one evening, he finds himself alone and staring at a photograph of his mother and father. He feels a mixture of love and hate twisting in his chest as he continues to stare at the photos. "I used to look up to you, Dad," he murmurs to the empty office, thick with sorrow in his voice. "I used to look up to you, because you were my hero. From this point forward, I have no idea who you are." The scene is a raw and emotional turning point for Michael, and it hints at the possibility that in order for him to find peace, he may need to completely disengage himself from Sonny's influence. Michael is having a difficult time dealing with his personal issues, and he discovers an unexpected confidant in Drew Kane. Having been through his own difficulties with identification and a troubled family past, Drew is able to identify the turbulence that Michael is experiencing and provides him an ear to listen to him. Drew asks Michael, "Have you given any thought to what it is that you want for yourself?" While they are both enjoying a drink one evening, not only as a Corinthos or a Quatermain, but as you as well. As a result of the question, Michael cannot believe it. He has never considered himself to be a separate thing. Rather, he has always thought of himself in terms of his family. Although Drew's query continues to linger in his mind, it opens the door for him to consider the option of forging his own path, independent of the expectations of his family. Willow's health takes an unexpected turn for the worse, as if Michael's life weren't already complicated enough from the beginning. After Sarah passes out one morning, Michael brings her to the hospital as soon as possible. Michael's priorities come into stark focus as a result of the crisis. His wrath towards Sunny, his uncertainties about ELQ, and his issues with loyalty all fade into the background as he sits next to Willow's hospital bed and holds her hand warmly. During that very instant, Michael comes to the realization that, above all else, he desires to safeguard the life that he has constructed with Willow. It is a moment of clarity that compels him to reevaluate the things that are actually important to him. A decision that will change Michael's life is made while Willow is recuperating. He decides to leave the family business and instead concentrate on constructing a future with Willow, free from the entanglements of the Corinthos and Quatermain legacies. He does this by turning his attention away from the family business. It is a decision that his family finds shocking, but for Michael, it is a step that is liberating and brings him closer to independence and serenity. Despite the fact that Sunny is disappointed by Michael's choices, he respects his son's choice since he understands the courage it takes to forge one's own path. Carly is also prepared to lend her support, despite the fact that it is abundantly evident that the decision will have long-term consequences for the family. Fans are able to see a different side of Michael now that Robert Adamson is playing the role. This side of Michael is said to be more reflective, introspective, and willing to address his inner problems. Adamson infuses the role with a newfound vitality, conveying Michael's fragility as well as his journey towards self-discovery. Fans will have a better understanding of Michael as a character as a result of the temporary recast, which emphasizes the character's quest to find his identity. Throughout the course of the narrative, Adamson's portrayal leaves an indelible mark, illustrating Michael's transformation from a troubled son to an independent man who is prepared to leave his own mark on the world. Upon his return, Chad Duell takes on the task with a heightened level of commitment and determination. Duell does a nuanced job of capturing the transformation that Michael has undergone as a result of his journey over the previous few months on this voyage. Michael is no longer merely the obedient son or the chief executive officer of ELQ. Rather, he is a man who has chosen his own path, liberated from the shadow of the expectations that his family has for him. As Michael navigates the ramifications of his actions and the developing dynamics of his relationships with Sunny, Carly, and Willow, the return brings with it new possibilities for his character. These possibilities help Michael navigate the consequences of his choices. Fans are eager to find out what Michael Corinthos has in store for them now that Duell is back in the role. General Hospital was afforded a one-of-a-kind opportunity to delve more deeply into Michael's character as a result of Chad Duell's brief departure from the role and the subsequent casting of Robert Adamson in the role. During the course of this narrative, viewers were able to witness a pivotal period in Michael's life, one that delved into topics such as loyalty, identity, and the challenging decisions that come with being faithful to one's family. In the end, Michael emerged more powerful, more self-aware, and ready to face the future with courage. This serves as a poignant reminder that sometimes taking a step back can lead to the greatest personal progress. Dante Falconeri couldn't shake the impression that something was amiss, despite the fact that Port Charles was humming with activity. Over the course of the preceding 6 weeks, his son Rocco, who was a teenager, had become isolated. It was not unheard of for a teenager to distance himself from his parents. But this was a different situation. Rocco's quiet seemed heavy, as if he was concealing something from them. Dante came to the conclusion that he could not continue to ignore it any longer, particularly in light of the recent changes that had occurred in his own life. These changes included juggling the demands of a demanding work as a detective with the difficulties that came with managing his situation with Sam McCall. But Dante's main priority was Rocco, and he wanted to make sure that his son was comfortable and understood. Rocco was found by Dante in his room after dinner one evening. He was wearing headphones, and his eyes were riveted on the screen of his phone. As Dante took a few deep breaths, he rapped on the door and then entered the room. "What's up, buddy? Is it possible for us to talk?" The headphones were removed from Rocco's ears as he glanced up. "Yeah, that's fine, Dad." A solemn but compassionate expression appeared on Dante's face as he sat down. "I have the impression that there has been this wall between us. It seems as though you are going through something, but you do not want me to know about it." As Rocco stared down at his hands, the awkward silence that had descended upon the room continued to grow. Finally, he let out a sigh. "It's hard to understand, Dad." Dante nodded, in recognition of the fact that it was not always easy to disentangle one's feelings. "I get what you mean, and I am aware that you are maturing, Rocco, I know. However, keep in mind that I am here for you no matter what it is. No matter what is going through your head, you don't have to carry it by yourself." To give Dante a little comforting grin that didn't quite reach his eyes, Rocco gave the impression that he was about to open up for a brief period. But then he merely nodded and didn't say anything further. When Dante left his son's room, he was feeling the same way he had before, concerned and determined to assist, even though Rocco was not yet ready to share. Dante made the decision to talk to someone the following day who might have some understanding of what Rocco was going through on that particular day. Lulu was still in the process of recuperating, and Rocco could feel the weight of the separation. It is possible that a member of the family, specifically someone who had known Rocco and been present through all of the highs and lows, could offer some insight into the situation. At Kelly's, Dante finally got to meet his mother, Olivia. Upon his arrival, she greeted him with a loving embrace and a gaze that conveyed her awareness that he was thinking about something. As a member of the Falconeri family, Olivia's intuitive abilities were famous. While placing her hand on his arm, she communicated, "Something is bothering you. Are you referring to Rocco?" A sigh escaped Dante's lips as he absent-mindedly stirred his coffee. "I agree. He's not that outgoing. It's hard for me to know if he's dealing with issues that are common of teenagers or if he's dealing with anything more serious. I'm scared that it could be related to Lulu in some way." The smile that Olivia gave him was one of compassion. This young man has accomplished a great deal. Even if it was just for a short period of time, the loss of his mother made an impression. On the other hand, you, Dante, have been his rock. Perhaps he simply does not know how to articulate the emotions that he is experiencing. The weight of Olivia's words was felt by Dante, and he nodded his head. Mom, I have been so busy of late. Either I failed to recognize the symptoms, or I just did not make sufficient efforts to get in touch with him. Olivia gave his hand a gentle tap. Dante, you are going to do your very best. Nevertheless, perhaps this is a sign that you should slow down and make time for him. It's possible that the two of you need to take a break for a while, to find a place where he is at ease enough to give you his whole attention. Dante gave her words some thought. An opportunity to reconnect without the distractions of regular life could be just what they needed, and a trip could provide that opportunity. A few days later, Dante made arrangements for him and Rocco to spend the weekend at a secluded cottage located outside of Port Charles. It was a spot where they could take pleasure in the natural surroundings, spend some quality time together, and possibly wind up having the heart-to-heart conversation that they both required. As they made their way through the twisting lanes of the forest, Rocco cast his gaze out the window, his countenance being indecipherable. Dante cast a peek in his direction, attempting to come up with the appropriate words to break the silence. To begin, Dante stated, "It is important to me that this location is unique. When I was roughly the same age as you, your grandfather brought me here. We used to come out here to go fishing, hiking, and just generally get away from everything." Rocco gave a respectful nod, but did not utter a single word, and Dante had the same feeling of frustration. However, he forced himself to remember that this was not about coercing anything. Rather, it was about providing Rocco with the opportunity to speak whenever he was ready to do so. When they got to the cabin at long last, Rocco appeared to finally calm down a little bit. His state of mind became more relaxed as a result of the tranquil environment, which consisted of towering pine trees and the gentle sound of a stream in the vicinity. Unpacking, cooking, and playing a few games of cards together were the activities that they did together throughout the evening. Both of them found solace in the fact that everything was so straightforward. Dante made the decision to give it another shot later that evening, as they were sitting around a little fire that they had constructed outside. He started off by saying, "Rocco," in a low voice, "I know you've been carrying a lot. It is not necessary for you to share everything with me, but I want you to know that it is normal to feel whatever you are experiencing." With his face lighted by the warm glow of the fire, Rocco gazed into the flames below. He remained silent for a considerable amount of time. Then, however, he spoke in a voice that was barely audible above a whisper, and added, "I miss her, Dad." The pain in Dante's heart. He didn't require Rocco to clarify who he was referring to. He extended his hand on his son's shoulder and placed a soothing palm on his shoulder. "I am aware that you do, friend. As for me, I also miss her." The entire day. When Rocco finally looked up at him, Dante was able to see the anguish and bewilderment that was visible in his eyes. "There are times when I fail to comprehend the reasons behind this occurrence. Why was it necessary for her to leave?" When Dante was having trouble finding the appropriate words, he took a deep breath. "If you ask me, Rocco, life does not always make sense. On occasion, we are not provided with replies. All I know, however, is that your mother loves you more than anything else in the world. She is always with you, even when she is not physically present. They opened up to one another more than they had in the past few months as the night progressed. His anxieties about the future, his anger at the uncertainty, and his anguish over the times he felt he had lost with his mother were all things that Rocco shared with anybody who would listen. "You know, Dad," Rocco said, "sometimes I'm scared that if I stop missing her, if I stop being sad, it means that I'm forgetting her." Rocco was relating his feelings to his father. Dante gave a slight shake of his head, his tone containing a mild sense of confidence. "That is not the way things are done, Rocco. Whether or not you miss her does not determine how much you love her. At all times, she is a component of you, and it would be her wish for you to be glad. She would want you to feel the fullness of your existence." The slow nod that Rocco gave indicated that he was taking in his father's comments.